Hello and welcome to the Pulse of Africa Roundup, your premier destination for in-depth analysis of the continent's most pressing current affairs. In each episode, we delve into the major issues tripping Africa today, offering expert insights, critical perspectives, and thoughtful discussions. Today, our focus turns to regional integration in Africa, and my colleague Desta Kahasai and I, Gamachisa Mandida, will bring the program to you. Stay with us. Today's topic that we entertain is regional integration, economic integration in Africa or for the African continent. And I think we need to mention, why we need to have it. So could you please say why Africa needs, regional integration?
Yes, thank you. And Africa has been, for far too long, has been a very fragmented market, and this has cost Africa in numerous ways. Say, for example, there are multiple reasons why Africa has remained a fragmented market due to colonial borders and even a lack of political commitment, which is very grandeur in this area. And Africa stands as one of the least integrated region globally, with intra-Africa trade lingering at between 12 to 18, in contrast to 70% in Europe and 60% in Asia. And this has already impacted Africa, losing billions of dollars. If Africa had maintained its composure in pursuing an integrated market which is seamless across the countries, with harmonizing the regulations and the other procedures that are needed with regard to the integration, Africa could at least gain up to $450 billion annually. And in the lack of, or in the delay of implementing the African Free Trade Agreement area, Africa is losing up to 100 billion USD annually. That could have come to as an income for the continent. And this is not an easy thing for Africa that has been for far too long taking loans, be it in concessional and commercial loans from the IMF and the World Bank and so on. And this means a lot for Africa. And the African Free Trade Area has been already gone into force since 2021, but it is not fully implemented. There are obstacles along the way with regard to non-tariff barriers and harmonization of what you say with visa-free movement and mobility of people. And the African Free Trade Area presents a groundbreaking opportunity, posing such an opportunity to elevate the African free trade, the intra-Africa trade, up to 52% by 2035. And this means a lot, in particular for the member states in Africa, and even for the continent in general, I think. So Africa has no time to fully implement the Africa Free Trade Area.
You're right, Desta. By the way, we need to remember the fact that, of course, Africa is a continent that is rich in many aspects. For instance, you can take, its youth population. That is, a huge workforce that can contribute, significantly to the development of the African continent. And of course, everyone knows that Africa is a continent that is, of course, endowed with raw materials that can, help it become, so rich. However, one big problem that we can mention is that Africa hasn't utilized or tapped, fully its potential, its resources. And so this has been said, for, we can say, decades. And it seems that, African nations need to do something real about it. One point to mention is that, of course, Africa, the African Continental Free Trade Area plays a big role in providing, in offering, a hand to these challenges. So one of the things that Africa need to do is, of course, to make, some kind of changes to the way it was dealing with everything, just these challenges that the two of us have mentioned. So this involves harmonizing development strategies and building interdependence among nations and fostering, just cooperation. And if we do this properly, I think, just these problems can be solved, in a short period of time. And so, what do you think Africa's, practically should do to achieve, the goals of Agenda 2063, which involves, of course, solving these problems in the long term, and then, bringing about, immediate successes? What do you say on that?
Yeah, as you mentioned earlier, there are commendable things from member states, as you have mentioned, like Ethiopia. It has already assigned one of its ministries as a trade and regional integration.
Yes.
Which is commendable, a step forward in fully implementing the Africa Free Trade Area. And similarly, other countries should be following such kind of steps so that the full implementation of the Free Africa FTA can at least result in tangible effects. One of the things that you have mentioned is Africa is a youth population. It's one of the young population continents in the world. And it is expected and it is projected to generate about 14 million new jobs by 2035 for these young Africans. And this is particularly in the value-added industries and services. Obviously, it is known that African countries export, most of the time it is raw materials, agricultural products, which in turn results in budget deficit when they are importing the value-added products. So, say for example, Ethiopia is exporting coffee, and when it is being value-added and turning into a chocolate, Ethiopia is just having a lot of expenditure on the importers. So this has to be changed. The way Africa is moving has to change. And one thing to mention, Africa, at least annually, expense of Africa in terms of annual food imports is more than 50 billion. Where this can be invested in Africa when we are boosting and fostering intra-Africa trade. So for this to happen, I think African countries should follow what Ethiopia and other African countries are doing in seamlessly integrating through infrastructure, taking a step ahead for environmental protection, and assigning a ministry that facilitates and accelerates the implementation of the Africa Free Trade Area. And this in turn will at least to the minimum, will lift about 50 million people out of poverty by 2035. So I think we have no time to spend in delaying the implementation of the Africa Free Trade Area, I think.
Of course, different African nations have brought successful stories. They have successful stories regarding the implementation of this integration or these strategies to ensure this integration. We can take, for example, South Africa. It is one of the dominant players in SADC, and it has brought, different positive changes. For instance, a key economic hub exists, in South Africa, And South Africa, of course, participates actively in SADC, and especially it plays, big roles in promoting trade, infrastructure, and political stability in the region, okay, in the southern African region. Ethiopia also has been, playing a big role in IGAD and in the Intergovernmental Authority on Development. And of course, Ethiopia is, a founding member of IGAD, and it has been focusing on peace, development, and regional integration in East Africa. And as a result, it has achieved a lot. For instance, promoting peace initiatives, infrastructure projects like roads and railways, and economic cooperation. Kenya, of course, the East African Community, EAC, has been led by Kenya so far, and Kenya has been, advocating for a common market, customs union, and eventually, a monetary union. And its achievements include establishment of a common external tariff, free movement of goods, services, and labor, and regional infrastructure projects. Of course, Ethiopia and Kenya, they share borders, and we have, roads that cross, just the Ethiopia-Kenya border. And this is, one good example of the achievements of, just these countries. And if we take Nigeria, ECOWAS, okay, so Nigeria is, a major player in ECOWAS, and of course, ECOWAS, aims to promote economic integration and stability in West Africa. And so far, free movement protocols, a regional passport, and efforts toward economic convergence have been achieved by Nigeria. And this is, a great thing, really.
There is a good promising move with regard to visa-free movement in some countries like Ghana, including Ethiopia and others, but it has to be advanced, I think, so that implementation can result in a fruitful way. And last but not least, what I can say is Africa cannot afford to remain as 54 fragmented markets. We must think continentally and trade regionally and compete globally.
Exactly, Desta. This is really important because regional integration can happen only when there is understanding and political will, like, opening borders. And these are not, things very easy to do because along them, many negative, of course, things happen. For instance, some African nations might feel exploited when or become, vulnerable in opening, just their borders. So one thing that African nations need to focus on is that awareness should be made. Okay, awareness mechanisms, strategies, should be placed. They need to be implemented so that African nations really understand the need for having, just regional integration. And education is very important. There must be, some kind of harmony. And for instance, when you educate, one region of the African continent, not the other, and then coming together, working together will be, a very difficult thing to do. So Africa need to invest on education and training, and along with it, Africa need to make sure that this regional integration is important, so that respective nations, will play their roles in realizing, regional integration in the continent. So in Kenya, for example, Kenya plays, a big role in this kind of thing, like allowing, just this border trade, okay, with Ethiopia and other countries in the Horn of Africa. And of course, just these respective regional bodies, such as, the SADC, the IGAD, okay, the ECOWAS, they need to collaborate, okay, to enhance, just the integration of the regional integration in the African continent. So political will is very important, okay? Education is very important, and at the same time, understanding the significance of it, this regional integration is also important. So very good practices or experiences, have already been observed so far. And of course, it's not an easy thing to realize, the continent's integration fully. A lot needs to be done. But we agree that regional integration will have, positive outcome for the African continent in general. Desta, I think time limits us here, and we need to wrap it here.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Viewers, thank you very much for watching our program that involved regional integration in the African continent. Next time, we'll come up with new topics. Until then, goodbye.